If you're a soon-to-be twin dad, there's probably a million things running through your head each day as it gets closer to the big day of your twins' arrival. You probably have a long list of things that your partner wants you to do, and you might be anxious about how you're going to manage all those details. You want to be supportive and well-informed, but you don't have all the time to sort through all the information out there. That's where you need to get the lowdown from a twin dad expert who can break it down into what you need to know most. Today, we're talking about what expecting twin dads really need to know with expert Joe Rawlinson. This is Twin Talks.
The ultrasound shows your babies to be healthy.
What? Did you say babies? You're huge. Are you having twins?
Are they natural?
Which one do you like better?
Twins, huh? My neighbor's cousin's brother's uncle's a twin.
So can they read each other's minds?
How do you tell them apart?
Twins? You got a 2-for-1.
Do twins run in your family?
Double trouble. You're not having any more, are you?
At least you're not Octomom.
If you're pregnant with twins or you're an experienced twin parent, odds are you've heard it all before. Now it's time to hear from the experts. This is Twin Talks, Parenting Times 2. Welcome to Twin Talks. My name is Christine Stewart Fitzgerald, and I'm your host. Just a little bit about myself. I have a set of identical twin girls, and then they were followed by a singleton girl. So my husband pretty much gave up, and we got a male dog named Shadow. And so today we also have some guests with us, and we're going to introduce them in just a bit. So if you haven't already, be sure to visit our website at newmommymedia.com and subscribe to our weekly newsletter, which keeps you updated on all the episodes we release each week. And another great way to stay updated is to hit that subscribe button in your podcast app. And if you're looking for ways to get even more involved with our show, then check out our membership club. It's called The Mighty Moms. It's where we chat more about the topics discussed here in our show, and it's also an easy way to learn about our recordings, so you can join us live. Well, okay, let's meet our guests today. We have Jose and Monique Romo, who join us as twin parents of toddlers. Almost one, I think. And we also have our guest speaker, Joe Rawlinson, author and fellow podcaster of The Dad's Guide to Twins. So as we get started, I would love for all of you to introduce yourselves to our listeners and share a little bit about what it was like when you first found out you were having twins. So what were your first thoughts and what were you most worried about? So let me turn this over to, let's see, Jose and Monique.
My name is Jose Romo. My wife's Monique Romo. We're from Fresno, California, and we have one boy, one girl, and they're going to be one next week. So this past year has been pretty crazy. So from what I remember, when we found out we were having twins, it was actually very early on. It was the very first ultrasound, and I remember seeing the screen. I can't really read ultrasounds well. So I remember sitting down and I see two black dots on the screen, and my mind just went like all over the place. Like it was crazy. It was our first time having kids, and I didn't think we were gonna have twins right off the bat. So it was definitely a sense of excitement, some fear because it was just a lot. So yeah, it was a wild time.
I can only imagine. And as your dad, what was your first thought? Were you worried about anything?
Um, I mean, yeah, I think there is always like a natural feeling of being worried because, like I said, I'm a first time dad. It was gonna be my first set of babies, so I think I was just worried about, not being able to live up to the being a father in a way, but also there's a lot of worry about um, see, me and my wife would kind of have like we're always waiting for the other shoe to drop kind of feel because it was kind of hard to be fully excited because we knew it was a high risk pregnancy coming up, and it was just like that worry about like, are they okay? Are they healthy? Are they gonna make it the full 9 months? So it was a lot of worry in that aspect. And in terms of financial problems, I wasn't too worried about that. I had just gotten a new job at that point. It was just a matter of saving up and looking at what we need for the babies. But I would say my worries definitely came from are we gonna be able to make it the full term, or the baby's gonna be healthy? Because it's a scary thought, because you can't do anything once they're in the belly. I can't protect them that much. So it was definitely, I think that worry came from that aspect of things.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine. And Monique, you were obviously as the mom, probably in shock, even more so. So
Oh
in those
yeah.
early stages.
When we had gone, like Jose said, we had gone to our ultrasound, and I saw one little bubble pop up on the screen. I was like, oh my God, thank God there's a baby in there, because we had miscarried, 6 months before. So we had finally seen that we have a baby with a heartbeat. And then seconds later, we see another bubble pop up. And I'm like, maybe it's something else, maybe it's nothing. And then they said, do you have twins in your family? Because ultrasound techs can't exactly give you medical advice or, give you your diagnosis or whatever. And that's when it confirmed, oh no, we were having twins. And I was kind of shocked, but a little freaked out because, I first time mom, I was about to have two babies at the same time. It was pretty crazy.
Yes. We all remember that moment, right?
Yeah. And then
For sure.
because it was twins, it was high risk. So we couldn't exactly we were excited, but like Jose said, we're waiting for the other shoe to drop. I ended up getting preeclampsia later on in my pregnancy. So I mean, throughout the whole pregnancy, I had to go to the doctor all the time, once or twice a week, and then ended up being twice a week to the hospital visits. And then we were in the hospital for 2 weeks, and on the 11th day, we delivered the twins at 37 weeks.
Wow.
They're healthy. They came out healthy.
Oh, that's so great to hear. I'm gonna turn this over to Joe. I'd like, yeah. How about a quick introduction? So, and then what were your first thoughts, and how did you get into become, the dad's expert?
Hey, everybody, this is Joe Rollinson. I'm a father of 4 teenagers. I've got two Singleton boys, 18 and 17, and I have identical twin girls who are 15. They're all in high school right now. They're all driving. I'm sorry, that's true. And the
Expensive.
don't ask me about car insurance. Yeah, that'll break the bank. So, as you could tell, they're all really close in age together, and so when we found out that we were going to be having twins, I started looking for information for twin dads, and everything I could really find out there was by moms, for moms. The books, if there was books, there was like, we got a paragraph as a dad or maybe a footnote at the end of the book. And so I thought, okay, well, if I'm having the same experience, I might as well share what I'm learning along the way with other dads and help them out. So I just started sharing on my website, dadsguidetotwins.com, and that ultimately turned into a podcast and a couple books. And so it's been fun to help dads that are coming up the path behind me all over the world. And that's been a great adventure. As far as our own twin adventure goes, when we first found out we were having twins, we knew that we were pregnant. My wife had taken the pregnancy test, and we were excited to have our third child, what we thought would be our third child. And I had gone with her previously to the first appointment with the doctor and the ultrasounds. And so I said, hey, I'm just going to take care of our our toddler boys. And you can go to the doctor, so you don't have to worry about them running around the office and stuff. And so, of course, she goes by herself and finds out she's having twins. We're having twins. And so I got the news over the phone while I'm waiting in the car with our boys. And somehow I safely drove to the hospital, the doctor's office, to get her, to bring her home. And it's been an adventure ever since.
So and you definitely took on the mantle, and much more. I mean, so I've got to say, I mean, that's awesome that you're providing kind of beacon of light for a lot of the twin dads, because I agree, there really isn't a whole lot of information. I mean, most of the let's just say our like podcasts and stories and medical information is directed to moms. So we love that you're providing a resource specifically for dad. So that's really awesome. So so I was just curious then, especially for Joe, when the dust settled down and you first finding out that you're having twins. So what were your top priorities, as a dad? I mean, you had two babies or toddlers at that time. So I think at that point you kind of had an idea of what you needed to do, but I'm sure when you find out you're having two, it's just sort of things change a bit. So what did you decide you needed to do when you got the news?
Well, I was first worried about my wife. I was working full time, and she was a stay at home mom to our toddler boys. And I couldn't imagine how she was going to handle four kids at once, especially, babies with the toddlers. And so that was my biggest concern, was how are we going to logistically help her get through this challenging. I mean, we didn't know what was going to be happening. So this challenging time as infants, we knew what a single infant meant. We knew what single toddler meant. We didn't know what two at the same time would be. And of course, naturally, I also had the concerns about how are we going to fit everybody in our house? How are we going to fit everybody in our car? How are we going to pay for everything? And so all that swirling emotions of me trying to make sure my family was provided for and taken care of, as well as supporting my wife, emotionally, and supporting her through the logistics of caring for twins. Those were kind of my top of mind concerns at the moment.
And so I can imagine then I mean, you had a little bit of, the idea of the magnitude of it. So I'm sometimes I have to say, I don't know which is better or worse to, have twins at the beginning, because you really don't know and you don't know what you're getting into. Or if you've already had kids, you're like, well, okay, I think I have a general idea. This is maybe going to be a little bit more than what we had in just having a singleton baby. So, I don't know. Sometimes ignorance is bliss. I know in my case, where our twins were the first two that we had, so we had no clue. I mean, it's interesting. I'll say my husband, when we knew we were twins, we knew we were not going to be able to do it on our own. I mean, we knew we need help. So I think that was in some ways helpful, that we could just say, hey, we got to pull out the big guns. So I remember we told the grandparents, we actually got them all on the phone at the same time, and we said, okay, we have some big news. And they kind of knew, like, we were trying to get pregnant. And they said, oh, you're gonna have a baby. I said, it's bigger. So what do you mean? And then there was like this pause, and they're like, you could hear them going through their head, and it's like, what, twins? Or like, yep. So we asked for help, like, right off the bat, because we knew we need them to come down, and we're gonna spend some time. So um I know it's kind of tough when you don't know what you're getting into. So I'm curious. So when you look back at the things that you thought were important then, it's sort of it's like, and I don't know if you'd mentioned, kind of getting, maybe more, getting like did you have enough car and space, that kind of thing? What were your priorities? Would you make the same priorities that you did then?
I would. I mean, my first priority had to be for my wife and making sure the babies were fine and healthy. And so everything else we figured we can just solve those problems as they came up. I think I was overly concerned about the logistics of fitting in our house and in our car and finances, because all of those were problems that we were able to resolve. We stayed in our same house. The car was fine. I mean, it was a tight squeeze. It still is a tight squeeze. Our teenagers all share the same bathroom still. So they've only known that experience their whole life. So sometimes you just have to take a pause and evaluate what is the most pressing, urgent thing in the moment. And that was making sure my wife was healthy, babies are healthy, happy, everything's cruising along, and then we could sort out the rest of the household.
Oh, yeah. I know, I can imagine. And Jose, how about for you? So what were your top priorities when you first found out that you guys were pregnant with twins?
It was about the same. It was more about, educating myself as much as I could on, the expected twin dad. But most important, it was how to be as supportive as I could for my wife, and how to be there and how to cater to her and her needs, especially with the pregnancy. That was pretty much my top priority, is making sure that I'm there for her as much as I could be, because I know it was going to be a tough road ahead. And, there's only so much I can do. So there's a lot of reading and researching and on how to just be there for her on the, and then everything else came second in terms of house space and living space and all that.
Right. Yeah. But no, that's great. I just say, I love to hear that you're like, okay, let's make sure she's got what she needs and both physically and
Yeah.
emotionally. That's wonderful. Um, so are we just to shift over a little bit? So I gotta say, so Joe, in your book, the Dad's Guide to Twins, so you lay out a number of things that dad should focus on, and I think one of the first things is how are we going to afford to having two at once? So what do you tell dads who are hit with this big question about finances?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest concerns I hear about from dads is how are they going to afford everything. I know I shared that same feeling when we found out about our twins. I mean, the first thing is you kind of have to have a handle on where you're spending your money right now. I know people may or may not like to budget their money, but at least to take an accounting of where your money's going so that you can start to make adjustments if you need to. A big issue a lot of dads I talk to is both the partners are working. So like mom and dad are both working and they have to make the decision of should one of the parents become a stay-at-home parent or should they both keep working and put the twins in daycare, which has its own exorbitant costs depending on where you're living. And so one thing is that you kind of have to look at what are essential expenses and you have to be honest with yourself about what these really are and what are discretionary or optional expenses that can be not necessarily gotten rid of forever, but maybe for a season of your life as you're adjusting to life with twins. And then you can start to bring those things back as you get used to the finances of twins, diapers, food, clothes, baby gear, all those things. So first evaluate where the money's going, what you could cut, or optionally how you could make more money, getting raises, switching jobs, who works, is it the mom or the dad? Maybe which of the two partners is making more money? Should you put the kids in daycare? Is it cheaper to have a parent stay at home? Lots of parents I talk to decide that it's not worth one parent working full time just to pay for daycare when they might as well just stay home and enjoy that experience being with their kids when they're really young. So there's a lot of things to consider with the finances, but definitely, there are always ways to be creative with your finances to make it work. So don't just throw up your arms and give up. There are ways to make it work in the end.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. For Jose and Monique, I mean, did you have any concerns about finance? Like, oh my gosh, how are we going to make this work? Just like two, right?
Yeah, kind of like Joe said. I know earlier I said that when we first found out about twins, I wasn't thinking about finances too much, but after the dust settled, like your previous question, we did start to talk about it, and that same topic came up about what are we going to do after the twins are born, because we were both working full time at that point. So we're starting to look ahead and how we were going to make it work with one of us working, one of us working or daycare. So we were considering our options early on, and kind of like Joe said, it just didn't with twins. As you know, everything's double, so daycare was going to be super expensive if we were to go on that route, and that was a big topic between us two, is just how we are going to make it work in terms of finances and money and who's going to stay home. So there was a lot of talk about that, and it got pretty worrisome for a while. But I'm a very optimistic person. I just I believe everything will work out, and I think so far we're doing okay.
Oh, right. No, I hear you. And the thing about daycare, you're so right that yeah, sometimes it just logistically it doesn't make sense to have pay for daycare, have two people working. And I know myself, I found, my plan was to stay working full time, after the babies were born, and it just didn't work out that way. And we're looking at that and thinking, okay, maybe, it's time just to stay home for a little while and take care of the kids. And I'll just say, I think that's a time when, yeah, that as partners, then you have to have those conversations about how the roles are changing and evolving. So it's not just about parenting, but sometimes you have to have some deeper conversations about your relationship as well and how you're supporting each other. So yeah, I think that could be a whole topic in of itself.
Yeah.
Like the relationship, right? So, I know that, we kind of mentioned that, when you have twins, I mean, you obviously, we need to have more space or carve out space and, wherever you're at, more rooms in a house, more seats in a car. And I know that a lot of times, couples find themselves looking to buy a bigger car or look for a bigger house. And as I say, I can share my story. So, I mean, my husband and I were living in a small condo in like it was a 2-bedroom condo. And, we thought, oh, the initial thought was, oh yeah, we'll make the second the bedroom, the nursery. But we realized, I mean, we didn't have a garage. I mean, it was in a, urban area. So there was no storage space. And I mean, there would literally be like no place to put a double stroller. It would be like sitting in front of the front door and like, okay, this is kind of crazy. And this was back in the days of the real estate market crash. So it was just kind of crazy. So we said, okay, we got to look, we need a bigger space. We need a house. We need somewhere we can, have a place for the mother-in-law to stay overnight and put 2 cribs and all of that. And I just remember, our whole process of buying the house kind of went south pretty quick, just because of the time. And we were on the verge of being homeless, literally just weeks before our girls were due. I mean, it was insane. And I remember thinking about what it was going to be like to take care of newborn twins in a hotel or stay at my parents' house. And of course, neither of those was something I'd want to do. But thankfully, my husband was really persistent in putting the strings together and getting the right people. And so we got the right person and we moved into our house 10 days before our girls were born. So I can say sometimes that as an expecting twin dad, my husband, he was seriously having to go through, a lot of stuff. He went to bat for us and he figured out the logistics of having an expanding family. So I guess so. Let me ask you. So Joe, do you have any suggestions for dads who know they need more space? If how did you carve out space in your house? I mean, if you already had 2, how did that work?
Yeah, more space is like linked to the cost of more space. And so first it's like a budget decision. Like if you have it in your budget to get to a bigger house or get the bigger car, then by all means do it. Because if you don't need the space right away, you'll need it eventually once your twins are mobile and beyond. But if you can't really afford that extra space, you're kind of forced to be creative. I mean, my first instinct was to go look at house listings. Let's go get a bigger house. We live in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. And so, what used to be like a guest room, that's gone. What used to be an office space, that's gone. Each room, our boys have a room and our girls have a room. And like I mentioned earlier, they share a bathroom. I thought that we would need to immediately move to get extra space. The reality is that newborn twins themselves do not take up a lot of space. So like you mentioned, if you have room for cribs and that stroller, you may be good enough for a while. Now, once they start becoming mobile, crawling, walking, then a little more space becomes more of a necessity. But if you're in a pinch financially and you're like, I can't move right now, I can't upgrade to a bigger space, maybe you can make it work in the space that you have by repurposing space. Like we got rid of our little office space and turn that into the nursery. You can also think about, we found great success in like vertical storage. Like if you look above your head or look above the flat tabletops, there's always space on the wall above you that you can turn into extra storage. IKEA may be, your best friend. I know we dropped a lot of money at IKEA doing that kind of stuff. So the extra space will come in handy a lot later. Like I said, we have 4 teenagers still in the same space, and the teenagers are bigger than me now. So it's still feasible and workable if you need it to work. You just may need to be, again, creative with the solution you come up with.
And how about, okay, so Jose and Monique, so did you find yourselves, did you have to, did you end up expanding, getting, more, did you move? Did you get a new car? What was your situation?
I wanted a new car, but I just wanted a new car, just to have a new car. But we have a full-size sedan, so we made it work. It has a giant trunk, so that's where we stick like the strollers and all that stuff in there. We don't have to worry about keeping it in the house. But we live in a 3-bedroom home. So when we first had the twins, we kept them in our room in a twin bassinet, so that saved a lot of space. And then once they were ready to move into their cribs, we had put 2 cribs in one of the spare bedrooms. And now that they're getting older, I feel like there's a lot of clutter. I feel like there's not enough space to put everything. Um, Recently, not too long ago, we actually got a giant playpen from them to play in. So all their toys are in there, so that kind of minimizes the some of the clutter. Um, but yeah, I mean, we looked at bigger houses, but I feel like right now is not wouldn't be the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Oh, yep. I hear you. I know.
yeah, yeah. Because like Monique said, I mean, we had the space to begin with, like the extra bedrooms, but as time went on, we just started seeing more stuff build up and up, like 2 swings, 2 walkers, two of everything. And what we thought we had space, now it seems like we don't have enough. So it seems like space is always getting taken up, and we hope to upgrade, houses in the future as they get older, a new car, and a bigger living space. But we're trying our best to make it work with what we have right now.
Yep. No, I hear it. And so, I mean, that's really great to know. I mean, it's I think maybe a lot of our listeners out there are going, hey, I feel like, I'm in a small space. I don't know if I can make it work. So it's great to know that you can. So sometimes that might be, have to just be a little bit creative with where to put this stuff. So I don't know, maybe we should do a whole episode on just how to do organization for the twin nursery. That might be a good topic too. So we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about some of the key things that twin dads need to know. Well, welcome back to Twin Talks. Before the break, we were talking with Joe Rawlinson of Dad's Guide to Twins and our panelists, Jose and Monique Romo, about the prep that's leading up to the birth of their twins. And I just wanted to kind of switch gear here a little bit. And so I think, we've been talking about some of the finances and some of the logistics of that. But I was going to ask, how about birth plans? I mean, I think for all the moms out there, birth plan is such a big thing to figure out. Okay, how are we going to have our twins going to arrive? Is it planned? Is it, are we going to do just induction or natural or hospital or home birth? All of that. So I'm curious from the dad's perspective. So Joe, what are some of the ways that I could help your wife, or you'd suggest that you would, that dads can help their partners in preparing in the birth plan?
Well, one thing that I always kept in mind was that it was my wife carrying the babies. It was my wife who was going to deliver the babies. And so I was going to go with whatever she wanted to do. If she wanted to try a natural birth, okay, let's do it. I'm going to support you all the way. If she wanted just to have a C-section, great, let's do it. I'll support you all the way. And so when it came time to decide what we were going to do, in our case, each of our singletons had been born via C-section. Our first was an emergency C-section after about 24 hours of labor. And our second, with our second born son, she decided just let's go straight for C-section. And so that was the decision also with our twin girls, was let's just plan for a C-section. So once that decision was made, it was, talking over with the doctor to figure out what should we expect as far as twins go, how can we plan for that at the hospital. And having already gone through a couple of C-sections, I mean, we knew what to expect as far as the procedure goes and what my involvement as a dad would be, or I would just be hanging out waiting for the babies to come out. So one thing was talking through that logistically with the doctor, also with twins, because they always come so early, premature compared to singletons. Our boys were born, close to 40 weeks, which is normal for one baby, and our girls were born at 36 weeks. And so you kind of the give and take of when the hospital would actually schedule a C-section versus when you might want the C-section. Our hospital wouldn't schedule it till 38 weeks. Turns out my wife started going into labor at 36, and that's one thing led to another when we had the twins. But talking through, what your partner wants was critical, and I wasn't going to force my desire for one thing or the other upon her. I just wanted my wife to be healthy. I wanted my babies to be delivered healthy, and I was willing to go and support whatever needed to happen there.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. So I want to ask Monique. So how did Jose support you when you were, putting your birth plan together and as it was, as it was unfolding?
Oh my God, Jose was amazing. Um, Everything I needed, he made sure I had, even before I even mentioned it. He made sure he was at every single appointment. It doesn't matter if it was a 15-minute appointment or a quick phone appointment. He was right there to make sure he was in the loop. Um, I had a million things in my Amazon cart. He made sure to get all that stuff too. So I was never I was personally I'm a procrastinator. So he was the one getting everything together. And when we thought we were ready um to have our babies, preeclampsia hit and all that stuff hit. So it kind of changed uh how we were going to do things in order, like finish the nursery and get the car seats ready. And we had the C-section at 37 weeks, and my health took a turn for the worse. Almost had a stroke. My blood pressure was dangerously high. So everything was pretty much on Jose to you know, he's kind of a single parent for a second. As soon as the babies were born, he was changing diapers, bottle feeding, taking care of me. And that wasn't part of our birth plan. I thought I was going to be able to get up and be able to do everything after the C-section. And he was amazing. He made sure everything was perfect. Um, Anything to add, Jose?
Uh, yeah. The birth plan was kind of tricky, especially once the end of the pregnancy came around because we just didn't know when the babies were gonna come. It was hard on all fronts. Like I didn't know when I was gonna leave work. I didn't know when we needed. We just had the hospital bag ready, and we just prepared for whatever was gonna come. And once the preeclampsia kind of hit a peak, then that's when everything just kind of went full full motion ahead. And yeah, I just tried my best to be there in any way I can. I stayed in the hospital the full 2 weeks with her. And when the babies are born, I was just trying to do what I can, and it was a tough time because it was hard to plan for all that. And I think it's just one of those things where you can't fully plan for it until you're in that moment, especially being a first time parent. It was a lot. So the birth plan was pretty tricky for us to do with the preeclampsia and just the unexpected birth date and all that.
Yeah, and it's scary too. I think, I can imagine. I know when, as the mom's having maybe some kind of health issues, and it's like, okay, well, we'll figure this out. But I can imagine as a dad too, just trying to figure out, well, how can I help? What can I do? Or, and maybe felt kind of, a little bit helpless, like, okay, I'll, help with the kids, but just there's probably a deep emotional, component going on, like, ooh. So, um, it's that's I've heard that from some other dads too, that just say, yeah, it's like it's just really hard. I mean, I think anytime when you see someone going through, like some type of a health crisis, and you just can't do anything. Like, there's a lot of emotions going on. Um, so I just wanted to also just turn this back over to Joe. So I know we've been kind of talking about, like, what are some of the essential things we talked about: finances and, birth plan, even through like let's just say the first year. I know, and this is probably another episode, but in those really early days, are there other things that you think that the dads really need to do, or think about, and as well as what are the things that maybe we don't need to stress about. I mean, I think there's so much information out there, saying, oh, you need to worry about this, and there's like, it creates this really long list. So I think there's probably things we should consider, and then there's the things like, hey, you got this, don't worry about it.
Yeah, I think a key mindset is only worry about stuff that you can control, and only because that's stuff that is in your, let's say, your sphere of influence. So many things about twin pregnancy and the twins are totally outside of your control. So any amount of stress and worry, although it's natural to do those things, is not going to help you solve those problems. And there's so many possible health scenarios with twins that if you just go searching on the internet, you're going to be scared to death that everybody's going to die and everybody's toast. And the reality is that's not the case. Every pregnancy is unique. Every delivery is unique, and everyone has their own little set of challenges. And so our mindset was, okay, when something comes up, we're going to then, absorb that information from the doctor. Then we're going to learn about that, see what we can do about that, and tackle that problem. So staying out of the hypotheticals will help kind of with your mental health during the twin pregnancy, for sure. And then when challenges do come up, you step up as a dad to support your partner in whatever you can do to support her emotionally and with whatever treatment plans and stuff that may be required at that point. So I had to just say, hey, it's out of my control and I can't control that thing. So I'm going to focus on what I can control, which was maybe, preparing the house, getting the baby gear, supporting my wife, stuff like that. During that, one thing that logistically is really important to plan, we talked about birth plans, but also like if dad is working, you have to think through your leave, like your paternity leave, what you're going to be taking. And each company is different. Every, countries have different laws about that as well. But you have to come up with a plan with your manager, with your boss, with your employer to figure what kind of time you can take off. If that time is going to be paid time off, if it's unpaid time off, how much time you'll have. In our case, I was working full time at a company and we had a 2-week leave policy for dads when they had children. They wouldn't double that to 4 weeks, even though there was 2 kids. So I had to figure out what am I going to do with my 2 weeks off. And so right as our girls were born, I took 1 week off. And then I talked with my manager about, okay, for the second week, how about I do half days? And so we had my mother-in-law came to visit, my sister-in-law. We had a bunch of family come visit, take turns. So there's always like 3 adults in the house caring for my toddlers and the twins for maybe the first couple months. So I took that first week off, and then I just went back to work full time. And then once all the help had left, all our family and friends had left, then I took off the remainder of my paternity leave doing half days. So that helped kind of ease the transition for my wife, going from somebody to be at home to support her to her being on her own. So think through the paternity leave aspect, and some employers and bosses may be more empathetic to that than others, but you have to have kind of a plan of when you will not be home when it comes time for that.
That's a really excellent point. Yeah, it's just the logistics of being there, and even if it's on a part-time basis. I mean, I have to say, I know, like my husband had, he was able to. I mean, in California, there's a state plan you can get some family leave, or actually, is it state or federal? I always forget, but you can get family leave, and he had some benefits where he could take some time off, paternal leave. And we divided it into kind of like part-time. So he was home for a couple weeks after their birth. And then for the probably couple months after that, he was just taking off some afternoons for a few days a week. And that was just helped. It helped so much. Even, I had my mother-in-law, but just to know that he was there, and he'd be home a little bit more. So yeah, I agree. I think that's definitely something. And when you find out, it's probably one of those things. Yeah, talk to your employer right away to find out. And I was going to say now, just to kind of, I have one last sort of question for all of you guys here. So, I know, as I can say, speak as a mom, I just really appreciated when my husband sometimes just did the little things. It's so easy to get caught up in just the chaos of, managing the twin stuff. And sometimes my, husband would just do little things like bring me lunch, because I couldn't get out. I was stuck on the couch, breastfeeding twins for, pretty much the whole day. And so he got out and he'd bring me lunch from, when he was coming home. So maybe what's one thing, I don't know if you can think of something that, and maybe I'll put this to Monique first. Is there something maybe you remember that Jose did for you that really meant a lot and just made you feel good, and just, felt like he was saying, hey, I'm here for you. I'm excited being a twin dad, and I'm here supporting you.
Throughout my pregnancy, I was nervous, so he would constantly assure me that I'm going to be the most amazing mom. And I mean, that wasn't just the pregnancy. It was even up till today. I mean, he always tells me I'm doing amazing. And then
That's
the
great.
little things he does,
Encouragement.
yeah, always encouraging. And the little things he does is, he lets me sleep in whenever I need to. He takes care of the kids when he gets home from work. He's straight up dad mode. He does everything. he's excited to do everything too. So that's also like one of those little things that makes me happy is him being so excited all the time.
Oh, we love that. And if Jose or Joe, if you've got anything that you remember you've done that your wife was really, excited about, or really that made her feel great.
During the pregnancy, I tried my best to go to every appointment with her. If it was just a checkup or if it was an ultrasound, just so that I could be there to support her, or in some cases corral our 2 toddlers that we had to take with us. And I was talking to her the other day about this, and one thing she said to me, like as a dad, I was kind of always focused on the logistics, or what can I do physically, preparations, etc. And she's like, one thing you really did was just you would be there physically with me, or we would cry together when we were going through challenging parts. And so just connecting in that regard emotionally was a huge support for her. Not every, as a dude and as an engineer in my past life, I'm like, always want to try to solve the problems, but most of the time it could be something very simple, like just sitting together, talking through problems together, and sharing those emotions together in a very, even in a quiet, brief moment that you may have together.
Oh, I love that. Okay. Well, that's just a great way to finish out the show. So thank you so much to our guests today who've joined us for this episode. We are especially thankful to Joe Rawlinson for sharing his expertise. And you can get more tips and tricks for twin dads on his website, dadsguidetotwins.com. And be sure to check out newmommymedia.com, where we have all of our podcast episodes, plus videos and more. And then, well, that wraps up our show for today. And thanks for listening. If you like Twin Talks as much as we do, please consider checking out the amazing businesses that sponsor our show week after week. And we'd also love for you to tell other twin parents about this resource, which of course is absolutely free. And if you want to check out some of the other podcasts we produce, such as Newbies, Parent Savers, The Boob Group, and Preggy Pals, then visit our website at newmommymedia.com. Thanks for listening to Twin Talks, Parenting Times 2.
This has been a New Mommy Media production. The information and material contained in this episode are presented for educational purposes only. Statements and opinions expressed in this episode are not necessarily those of New Mommy Media and should not be considered facts. While such information and materials are believed to be accurate, it is not intended to replace or substitute for professional medical advice or care, and should not be used for diagnosing or treating healthcare problem or disease or prescribing any medication. If you have questions or concerns regarding your physical or mental health or the health of your baby, please seek assistance from a qualified healthcare provider.
Hey mamas, don't forget to check out Mighty Moms. It's our online community built for new moms just like you. Not only can you connect with other moms, but you can also join us backstage for special mom-only online events. And you'll also be notified when we're recording, so you can join us as a special guest. Visit our website, newmommymedia.com, and click on the Mighty Moms banner. It's free. That's newmommymedia.com. See you there.